We're here at the Center for Photographic Art in Carmel by the Sea, California. We were fortunate to catch up with photographer Binh Dahn, who is also a professor of photography at Arizona State University. His work is permanently featured in the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the De Young Museum, the National Gallery of Art, just to name a few. Let's join Binh as he tells us about the daguerreotype process he follows.
So when daguerreotype came out in 1840, it was the only practical form of photography. It was popular in making portraiture work and became the bread and butter for the new photographic profession. There were thousands of daguerreotype studios across the globe. It's a very complicated process. And I do everything from scratch. So unlike in the days of daguerreotype where I could maybe just head down to a photo store, a drugstore, and pick up the chemicals and the plates, and I have to do everything myself these days. So I made the plate myself too. So what I do is I take just copper, roofing copper. So I take a plate and I polish it, and then I put it in a silver plating bath. So that will plate the copper with silver. And then once I have the silver copper plate, I now polish the silver becomes mirror finish. And then now I'm ready to carry it on the road. So I load all these plates into my van, and then I head out to the landscape. And in my van, it's a kind of a photographic van. It's like a laboratory. And I have a box called a fuming box, and that's where the plate goes into this fuming box. And inside this box is a little bit of iodine crystal. And the iodine will vaporize. And once it touches the silver surface of the plate, it becomes silver iodine. And as you know, when silver and salt comes together, it becomes light sensitive. So that's where kind of Louis Daguerre kind of discovered this process working with nips. They know that if they expose the plate in the camera for 8 hours, you will get an image. But obviously that would be too long to hold still for a photograph, or even to just do landscape pictures or cityscape. To develop the plate, this is where it becomes very hazardous. You have to do this in a laboratory chamber. The plate is developed in something called a mercury pot. And inside that pot is a little bit amount of mercury. And the mercury is heated, and it's not quite like a chemical reaction. Well, I guess it's a little bit of chemical reaction, but it's a physical reaction. What happens is the mercury film carries a charge, and there's a positive and negative charge. And once it hits that plate, it switches the crystal on, and that's where the image becomes revealed. So, 19th century, they really didn't care about all this. They just was glad to get a picture. They didn't do further research. So that's kind of the idea, And then afterward, the plate is fixed and gilded with gold chloride, and then protected from being scratched. It's quite expensive compared to our photography today. And there are many wonderful characteristics of the daguerreotype. Since the plate that goes into the camera is the actual photograph, you would get a first-generation image that is extremely high resolution. In the early years of this medium, people couldn't understand how it was possible to get that much detail into an image. Photography was a new form of representation. It was hard to wrap one's head around the idea that a simple camera obscura could record a photograph. Only something like this could be made by the spirit world. So when Louis Daguerre was demonstrating this process on the street of Paris, the crowd thought that he was tricking them. How could someone draw a picture so fast? And it was mysterious, a man underneath a dark cloth composing with a camera, then disappearing into another dark tent and emerging with a daguerreotype in his hand, with an exact copy of the brilliant scene in front of him. So today we understand that as photography, and we no longer have to go into a dark tent to make our photograph. But we forget that the daguerreotype itself was one of the first forms of nanotechnology. When making a daguerreotype, you're drawing with light on an atomical level. The image is made of tiny silver crystals that have been electrically charged by the action of light on the iodine silver plate. The daguerreotype is a stunning photograph, and it's impossible to replicate because of its mirror surface. But what is possible is that I'm able to digitally scan a daguerreotype to reveal other details that my naked eye could not see. So in this Grand Canyon plate, because the exposure was about a minute, those people who stood still for that time got recorded. Some people stood there still, solid as a canyon, not trying to fall in. They become more noticeable. Others are more ghostly because they were moving around and trying to take in the view from different angles. And these are tiny people standing on a rock. Some are Americans, and many more are foreign tourists. So the national parks have become the international parks. And people who are taking pictures and posing for them stood still long enough for my camera to record them, like this party here, where the lady was posing for the man who's holding the camera. So many photographs and memories are made at the national park. This is Moran Point, named after the great American landscape painter, Thomas Moran. When I was exposing this plate, I was hoping that the man standing on the rock will hold still long enough for my shutter to record him. And luckily he did. And not a lot of people climb out onto one of these rocks. And of course you could imagine it's pretty dangerous out there. And it seems like he's looking at the pictures on his phone and uplifting them onto probably social media, instantly sharing his memories with the world. Here, solid rocks are made heavenly like cotton candies. So this is Yosemite National Park. Was one of the first national park that I visited with my daguerreotype van that I nicknamed Louis. This is El Capitan, exposed on June 2011. So this daguerreotype is 5 years old today. It's a record to where I was on that day. So in my daguerreotypes of Yosemite Valley, I wanted to show the greatest hits of the valley in much the same way as Walken and Ansel Adams and thousands of photographers before me have done. And I have approached Yosemite Valley with classical eyes because I have been basing my composition off my memories of Yosemite as seen in those early photographs. And this scene was taken with my cell phone to show you my camera, which is actually wrapped up in with my dark cloth to avoid light leak. I use a very large early 20th century camera that was made in India for the sole purpose of travel photography. And the reason why I'm using that because finding really large 10 by 12 inch camera is a little hard today in large format gears. This is Three Brother. And of course I cannot photograph Yosemite Valley without imagining that Walkens or Adams peeking over my shoulder. They are my saints. And I often find myself praying to them to give me a good exposure. But in reality, it's really hard to make a bad picture of Yosemite Valley. Good pictures are everywhere you turn. And for me, it's kind of pretty much really overwhelming to be in a landscape where everywhere you look, there's a picture. So today, daguerreotypes are obsolete as a form of commercial photography. In that way, they are truly an art form.
Thanks for joining us with Ben. I hope this shed light on the history of a daguerreotype and how it fits in as an art form in our modern world. Be sure to subscribe now to follow all of our videos and follow me on Instagram. We love it when you like us, when you share, and you leave your comments. Until next time, get out and capture your own images of life.